Hey guys, it's Amber from NotableInk.com. Welcome to the Wow Embossing Powder and Whimsy Stamps collaboration blog hop. Be sure to click on the blog hop link down below in the description and join us on the hop. Comment along the way on the designer's post so that you're in for a chance to win one of two prize packs, a $25 gift certificate to Whimsy Stamps, and 6 different embossing powders of your choice with a case from Wow. Today I'm sharing creative ways to use your nesting stacking dies along with Wow embossing powders. Let's get started. I'm using the Wavy Nested Frames die set from Whimsy Stamps, and I'll use 4 different embossing powders from Wow. So to start off with, I'm going to use the second to the largest die here. I'm going to tape that to an A2 size piece of Neenah Classic Crest Solar White, and I'm going to die cut that out. So my first thought when I saw this die set was a geode with the kind of concentric rings of crystals on the inside. So I thought it would be fun to do a card like that. So I've die cut it out of the top panel. I have another piece underneath, and I'm just going to line up this die, tape it down, and die cut several of these so that we have several layers. And then we're going to go ahead and do some ink blending. Starting with the smallest die cut here, I'm going to use Altenews Sugarplums ink family, and for the lightest color, this is pale mauve. Then the next ring will be amethyst, the next one grape agate, and then plum for the darkest color. Actually, I don't think I actually get to plum because I only end up inking up 3 of these layers. So there's the first layer, and I'm just using some blending brushes. You could use sponge daubers, or here I've switched over to a sponge tool because I wanted some darker ink there. And I'm starting in the middle, where the die has been cut out, because I want the edge to be darker and then it to blend out towards white as it gets closer to where the next ring is going to be. So you don't need a lot of ink blending because those next rings kind of fall along in place. Now, I was thinking I was going to leave this as a white card on top. I ended up switching it to black later on after making the second card. So of course we're going to add some embossing, and I took a look at the embossing powders that I had, and what I landed on was embossing in 2 different colors. Here I have clear hologram sparkle, and then after I embossed all of my layers with clear hologram sparkle, then I came in with clear sparkle. Anytime you're using an embossing powder with glitter, you want to heat it from the back first to start melting the powder. That will embed your glitter, and then you can come around to the front to finish the job. If you start from the front, you may blow your glitter away. So start from the back and melt it, and then come to the front. And you can see that beautiful sparkle that adds. I'll do the rest of the layers. So you can see that here, and you can see it has kind of like a purpley blue iridescence to it, which goes perfect with the purple inks. So I didn't have a sentiment set, so I went ahead and printed one out from the computer, and I'm going to die cut that with one of the smaller rings. I added a little bit of ink blending, and this ink is so funny. So you can see it's a super light purple right now, but once I emboss it, I don't know if I just overheated it, but it turns more of a beige color when I emboss this particular piece. It's a really desaturated color, but you can see it there. It's more of like a kind of like an off-white color. So here I'm using the Wow Embossing Mixed Media brush. I'm just brushing on some of that gel, the embossing gel, and then I'm sprinkling on kind of like little piles of the clear sparkle embossing powder. I wanted to get it to be just a little bit more chunky, have a little more texture, and the clear sparkle has a different color sparkle as compared to the hologram. So it just adds a little more dimension and interest to it. So super sparkly. So I added black cardstock to the front and embellished with some crystals, and I love all the sparkle and shine. For the next card, I had kind of a rough idea in my mind, but you're going to see me kind of thinking about what I want to do here. So I have a black alcohol marker. I threw down a line, and I'm like, was that the right thing to do? And then I'm like, okay, well, we're just going to go for it. So I used a medium-sized die from the set and cut out a die cut in the middle because I want to inset that and pop up the frame that's around it on foam tape. So I knew that much. And I knew I wanted a silhouette palm tree sunset kind of scene here. So I'm filling in the beach with the black marker, and then I'm going to start adding some palm trees. So this is really simple drawing here that, you know, it's pretty loose. You don't have to overthink it too much. I've cut out a circle from masking paper because I want to add a sun for my sunset. Here I'm kind of thinking ahead to my water and where I want that to be. At first I was thinking I just wanted the water to be inset and everything on the outside to be the beach. But then I didn't think that was going to be enough water. So while I'm thinking about what I want to do with that, I'm going to move on to some ink blending. So I have Alternate Ocean Waves here. I'll have all the colors that I end up using linked in my blog post so that you have that. So I'm adding the ocean waves, and then I'm going to switch over to some yellow. And I end up with like a rainbow of colors here. So make sure that you clean your surface in between colors so that your colors don't get muddy and mix too much. So here I decided that I wanted to add some yellow. I want my sun to be the brightest, lightest yellow. So I'm going to go ahead and take the masking paper back off. Here I have Sunray ink. And so I'm just going to blend that around. And then I'll replace the mask and put a darker yellow around that. So it's going to keep the sun nice and bright, but all of the yellow around it will be closer to what you would imagine for a sunset. So this is chamomile. I didn't think that was dark enough, so now I'm coming in with the third color in that set, which is Snapdragon, and that's the Golden Sunset color family. And then here I'm going to come in with Coral Bliss. And then later on, I actually darken up all of these colors. So I started with Coral Bliss down here at the bottom, but then I ended up adding Coral Berry to make it darker. So I feel like, you know, it's looking a little anemic, so I'm going to darken it up with a purple here, and then we'll move on to our palm trees. So when you're creating a palm tree like this, you can just do kind of like the spine and then come off with flicks from either side. You want to change up the length of the stems and the direction of them. You want the curve of the line to kind of go in different directions. Think about maybe if the wind is blowing it. If you're not sure what shape it should be or what it should look like, Google some silhouette palm trees, take a look at that and use that as a guide. That can be really helpful. Also consider drawing some of your stems or leaves to be overlapping each other because that can add more dimension, and leaves that are going to be further away from you will be smaller, possibly shorter. The ones at the top will also be shorter. So I'm going to take the center out so that I can add my water here. I'll take the Wow embossing pad directly to the card, and then I'm going to sprinkle on Bahama glitter embossing powder, and this is part of the Caribbean Charm Trio. This is such a beautiful set, and it's a really cool embossing powder. It's a glitter embossing powder, but it also has these super chunky white pieces, which is going to mimic the surf of the water, and it's just so cool. So you can see I picked up a few of those and put those on, and I'm going to melt this from the back. You definitely need to melt it from the back so you don't blow those chunky pieces away. Then bring it to the front and finish melting it. So here you can see I was thinking the water was just going to be in the middle, and I decided it wasn't enough water. So I'm going to build up my beach, and I'm also going to bring that in so that the beach looks a little bit curved around the water. And I do draw over that embossing powder just a little bit. I have heard that that can ruin your nibs. I didn't have any problems with it, but definitely do that at your own risk. You know, it's a big investment that you make with your markers, so don't ruin them. And so here I have the mixed media brush again, and I'm just going to put in a little bit more water off to the side here, like that continues. And I'll continue it behind that tree as well. Then I decided that I needed more embossing powder, so I'm going to use black Glint. I added the embossing ink to all of the beach area. I'll add the black Glint, which is gorgeous, you guys. It adds a nice sandy texture, but obviously because it's a silhouette, it's got that dark black color, which is perfect. So I'm just using a brush to clean up my edges. I'll start heating that from the back to melt it, and you'll be able to see the color change here. And when your glitter embossing powders melt, they start to twinkle. So you can see it right there. So cool. I love this powder. So I'll just finish that off from the front. And then I decided the palm trees didn't look very exciting. So I'm going to take the brush here, and I've kind of gotten most of the gel off of the brush by kind of squeegeeing it on the container. And so I'm almost adding like a dry brush effect with the brush here to just add just little bits of ink to the palm trees here. Then what I'm going to do is take the black glint, and I'm going to sprinkle on pinches of it because I don't want it to completely cover. I just want touches of it here and there to add a little bit of sparkle without it completely covering up the details of my palm fronds there. So I'll knock off any excess with the brush and then get that heated. And I love the effect of this. So here you can see how sparkly that is, and then look at the trees. Isn't that cool? I love that dry brush kind of look. I wanted to pop up the card but also have a nice finished edge around the inside of the die cut here. So I have a piece of black sticky back fun foam. I traced the opening on to the release paper, ran that through my die cut machine, and then I'm just going to pop up the entire panel with this one piece of foam, which adds such a nice finished edge to both the inside of that die cut and then also all the way around the card. I'll adhere this to a piece of black cardstock. To finish off the card, I'll add tape runner to the centerpiece and get that inset. I'll put a sentiment on the inside of the card once I'm ready to mail it, and then I'm going to share some close-ups of the card so that you can see the black glint sand, that beautiful water, and then I love the distressed texture that we've got in the palm trees with the mixed media brush. Huge thanks to Wow Embossing Powder and Whimsy Stamps for putting together this collaboration hop. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing and liking down below, and click on the blog post link to join us on the hop. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll see you real soon with more inspiration.